Welcome to the darkness.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Creme de la Cringe.
I seriously
Yes,
love that name.
I do too. And I love our handle on YouTube. I was trying to find something that was catchy because believe it or not, Creme de la Cringe was somebody had taken that years ago, but I don't see anything on it.
No,
So
they haven't used it. I think I looked up something one time and it hasn't been utilized in years.
no. So we are Creme de la Cringe at cringeworthy crime. So I love that. I love that. So we're good. We're good. So anyway, folks, we have a murder coming at you from I think it was 1888 that this went down. So I love to find these old cases, especially if I can find gossip and trial notes. And it's great. This one's great.
It
It
just
had the
makes it
whole
better.
thing. This one's
Oh,
good. So
I'm
this one,
excited.
we're going to talk about a guy, and it's spelled Woolfolk, but it's pronounced Woolfolk. The last L is an R, the way that they
Hmm.
pronounced it. So it's Thomas Woolfolk. And he was born June 18th, 1860. And he was born in Bibb County, Georgia. And this whole thing takes place in Georgia. So his father and mother, Susan and Richard Woolfolk, his dad had a really large cotton plantation back in the day, so nobody get your backs up or anything else. It's just what happened. It's history. His dad had a lot of money. They had a large plantation, and it sounded like his dad was actually a really cool guy. There are people that are going to come into this story that actually worked on the plantation, but the way that they were described in the newspaper, they weren't owned. They lived and worked on the plantation. Now, you guys can read into that how you want. It does not say that they were slaves in any way. One gentleman actually rented a house on the plantation, and he worked the plantation right alongside Richard Woolfolk. So it sounded like
A
as
decent human
plantation,
being.
he's a human being. This guy was a
Yes.
really nice human. He was really, really well liked. Like the whole family was super well liked in Georgia. Philanthropists, they did a lot for people. Other farmers just loved them. They were just really, really good people. So Thomas, right after he was born, and this happened a lot, his mom dies. So I think Richard he had his hands full. He's got the plantation, and now he's got this infant son, and his wife is dead. So Thomas is sent to live with. Uh, da, 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 da. Let's see. He's sent to live with his aunt in Athens, Georgia. Um, and I think Thomas was the third child. So there was two older sisters and Thomas by the Thomas and Susan, or Richard and Susan's marriage. And then
Okay.
Susan dies. Okay. So I think actually maybe his sisters actually went to live with the aunt as well because Thomas is grieving and he's got a place to run. So they go to live in Athens with their mother's sister. And actually, yeah, he and his sisters went to live with the aunt. And but it sounds like she was wonderful. Like of all the scenarios, she was wonderful.
Yeah.
They would be seen like in a buggy going through town, and
Aw.
they lived in the like the high rent district. I mean, they were a well-off, well-to-do family. And it wasn't until, excuse me, Tom's father got remarried, and he got remarried in 1867. So Tom was 7 years old when his dad gets remarried. And so Thomas and his sisters now come back because he didn't want them gone. His dad
Yeah.
wanted them back as a family, but he couldn't raise children and run the farm.
No, it's hard enough raising kids, let alone trying to maintain a farm, especially back in that time frame.
Right, because everything's manual
Like,
labor. It's not
it's not like it is now where it's all
it's
the
not sitting in a
tractors and
John Deere and you plug in your coordinates and it does everything for you.
right.
You know?
No, you actually had to get out there in hard labor and work.
Yeah. So they go back to live with their father and new stepmother, and her name is, and I love this name, Maddie. Her name is
I love
Maddie.
Maddie.
I love that name. I know a couple of Maddies, and I just love that name. So everybody's big happy family. They're back in the big farmhouse, and Tom's dad and stepmother proceeded to have children as well. So the family is growing, and that's when Tom became a little bit quarrelsome. They noticed he had some kind of odd quirks. And people who knew him described him as a sharp, cunning, and unscrupulous fellow at a very, very young age. So I'm seeing they didn't put all of this out there, but you'll get the tone of everything. I bet this young man was somebody who was hurting animals. I think he was that kind of guy real quick.
Okay.
So, yeah. So we all kind of know where that leads now in criminology. They also called him a very perverse, obstinate, eccentric, and cranky sort of person. Now, remember, these are really genteel folk back there on
Yeah.
this plantation, and these farmers were well-to-do. They
And then you got
noticed
a child who's
a little on the weird side, and they're going, So Georgia, he ended up getting married as a young man, in his teens. Everybody got married in late teens back then, right? If you're like an 18-year-old female and you're unmarried, oh my God. So
you're never going to get married.
You're never going to get married. You're the crazy cat lady. Well,
Yeah.
Thomas, I don't know exactly when he got married, but I want to say he was, I think, about 17. And he gets married to a young lady named Georgia Bird. And she left him within 3 weeks.
That's sad and very
Yeah.
telling.
She divorced him later and said, he's not crazy, he's mean. Okay. And she said, and this is quote, he's the meanest man I ever saw. There is nothing too mean for him to do. Can you imagine what this young lady went through for 3 weeks? Wolfert hated, absolutely despised his stepmother and step siblings. He thought that that what they did was the most horrible thing in the world, to marry a new person, bring her in, and have all these kids. That was his farm, his land, his right, his name. He's the first male. How dare they have another family? That is the whole tone of this young man.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so they had he has 6 siblings, step siblings. So he has the 2 older sisters, and then his dad and his stepmother had 6 children. Okay.
Wow.
So they're all under one roof, and that's just the way they did it back then. And he believed that the new family was going to stand in the way of him inheriting all of it, because by rights, as the first male, he's supposed to get it all. Yeah. Okay. So we have kind of the tone of young Tom here, and he's not a nice guy. So now it's 3 a.m., August 6th, and this is 1887. And Mr. William Smith, who lived about a half mile away from the Wolfort farm, He's summoned by the farm by some young boys who roused him from sleep. It's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. And they explain that Tom Wolfork, his neighbor, asked him to come up to the farm immediately. So Tom sent these young boys over to Mr. Smith's house and said, please, please bring him back here. I need help now, right now. And so he doesn't know what the heck's going on. So he gets dressed real fast and gallop, they have to ride. So they ride
Yeah.
the half mile, which isn't that far, but still, over to the farm. So as this guy gets there, and there's a few other people from neighboring farms that have been summoned, and they get to the house. So all these witnesses are getting out to the farm. Mr. Smith said, Tom had gone back into the house a couple of times, but he didn't want Mr. Smith to go in there. And he's like, well, why am I here? What's going on? And Tom's covered in blood. And they don't quite know what's going on. So when Tom comes out, he's telling the witnesses that somebody had come in, that 2 men had come in and attacked his family. And that when he went back into the house, because the witnesses are standing out there and they're scared to go in. They don't know what's going on. So one of them had left to go get like the local law, but I don't know how far away a ride that's going to be. And so he said he went back into the house to put the bodies of his mother and sister on their beds because they were on the floor. Like his mother and one of his sisters was on the floor. And so that's how he got covered in blood. And he said he didn't like the way that these men left their bodies. So he went in and put them up on their beds. And that's why he was covered in blood. So this Mr. Smith, he goes walking around the house, and then later the law enforcement come over. And, it's law enforcement back in, but still, they had enough to know to walk around the house. And they noticed there was only one set of footprints outside, and they were Tom's. They matched Tom's because they were stocking feet footprints. Tom didn't have shoes on. He was in his stocking feet. And so they're like, that's interesting, because Tom had said there was 2 people that came in, and by now they're starting to pick the picture together that the family's dead. So the whole family's been murdered. And Tom's saying that he escaped by jumping out of a window, and there was 2 attackers. But he's pretty calm. He actually goes and sits under a tree, and he's just kind of hanging out. This is all the witness statements. They're going, this is weird. So he actually, as more and more people started showing up early in the morning, he went back inside the house and changed his clothes. He's like, oh yeah. And he hadn't even like washed up. So he said he went back in the house and he changed his clothes, and they're like, well, where's your clothes that had all the blood on it? And we'll tell you what happened to those clothes. So, the witnesses that were there before law enforcement ever showed up, actually performed a citizen's arrest on Tom. And so back in the day, I think this was pretty cool. They actually kept him from leaving. They brought him back to the front lawn and sat him there and said, you're going to sit here until the sheriff comes, because he was acting really weird. And they're like, something's wrong here. So the police come and they observe like dabs of blood on. So his father's name, he had been a captain in the Civil War. So his father's name, he was Captain Wolfork. I don't know for what side. I'm assuming for the southern side, but I don't know. Athens. I'm assuming. So they observed dabs of blood on Captain Wolfork's bedroom floor, as if somebody had been in their stocking feet. It wasn't shoe prints. It was like heel prints in blood. And so they're like, well, that's interesting. Tom had just socks on, no shoes. So they had gone out there and they're like, well, where's the clothing? And he's like, he was feigning like he didn't know what they were asking him. They're like, no, you were covered in blood. Where's all your clothing? Well, later they find the clothes down in the bottom of a well, like 180 feet down into a well. Somehow they ended up dragging the well and they found the clothes and they had blood all over them. Okay. So the undertaker, his name was J.J. Clay, he comes in and he starts examining the bodies. And he said the wounds were consistent with an axe. So the whole family had been hacked to death by an axe. Okay. And they
All
believe,
right.
yeah, based on rigor and everything else. And remember, I mean, we're so far advanced in forensic science now that sometimes we forget they did know a little bit.
Yeah.
Like rigor starts and then the body relaxes after a certain amount of time, right? And so they believed the attack happened between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Okay. So they kind of narrowed down the time frame, but it was 9 members of the Wolfork family were all bludgeoned to death by this axe.
Wow. 9.
9. So Tom's father, who was 54, his stepmother, who was 41, their 6 children, Richard Jr., Pearl, Annie, Rosebud, Charlie, and baby Maddie, 18 months
Hmm.
old. So from let's see, Richard was 20 down to an 18-month-old child. All of them taken out with an axe.
Oh, that's
Yes. And then
hmm.
also Mrs. Temperance West, who was 84 years old, she was the aunt of Mrs. Wolfork. She was staying in the house with them, and so he took her out too. All right. So Tom was arrested for the murders right then and there. Okay. But there was a lot of confusion in the like a week or two after the murders because a man who was kind of not all together with it in town, like he was known to be not all there,
Yeah.
he admitted to the murders. And he said, "Look, I did it." And they're going, "Well, wait, what?" And it took a while for them to figure out because again, they didn't really keep records back then or anything. He actually was in jail in another district for a different crime the night that all this took place. But it took them a few weeks to figure it out because he was confessing to like, I did this, I did that. They're like, whoa, wait, what? And so they're trying to put
Yeah.
the pieces together because they're pretty sure that Tom did all this. And why this guy's confessing. So then they wondered, did they work together? And so it wasn't until somebody else in the community stepped up and said, whoa, what? This guy over here that said he's doing it all, he was in jail over there in this other town. And they're like, really? What? So they went and talked to those constables and figured it all out. So they cleared him of the murder. But for a while, Tom's like, see, I didn't do it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Because you just have some guy come up and be like, "Oh, it was me." I wonder.
Exactly.
I wonder though if they did know each other and there was like, I mean, a
I,
well-off family.
he could have paid him off or something.
Yeah. I mean,
We
then if
don't.
you think about it, if he wasn't all there and kind of one of those stragglers or something, 3 hots in a cot.
Could be. I don't know. That's a very good point that I haven't thought about. It sounded like when I was reading the different articles that this guy was just kind of not all there and he was just, in particular, there were a lot of people, especially indigent people back there that were, or not just back there, but everywhere, who were very prone to false confessions. But like you said, 3 hots and anything to get them off the street. They were very prone to, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a very good point. I hadn't thought about that. I wonder if he paid him.
I mean,
They did.
it kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, they didn't find, he never had any blood on his clothing or anything like this man that admitted to all of this stuff. And Tom's actually, even like they call it undergarments, his underwear had blood on it.
Eh,
I mean, he was covered in blood. He was covered
That's
in
not just from like picking your sibling or your
No,
mother up and putting
that's
him in
taking
bed.
your
If you
clothes on
have
and
like,
off. You've handled your clothing. Yeah,
yeah, like that's
yeah.
intense to have blood on your underwear.
There was no doubt in law enforcement's mind that Tom did this. Okay. So the trial was really interesting. There was so much hostility in the community because the Wolforks were such a loved family that even back then they did a change of venue. They moved this whole trial over to Perry So it wasn't in Athens. It was, we got to get it out of this county because people wanted to see him hanged right then and there. But they're like, no, 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 we got to have a trial, folks. We got to have a trial.
And we got to have a fair trial. So I respect that they at least try to give him a fair trial.
They did.
And that's.
They did. They actually, so let me back up. They did a trial in Athens, but I don't know if it was the judge. Anyway, they said he stepped in or somebody stepped in. It doesn't really say. And they said, this is not a fair trial. So they moved it to Perry, and it like a new trial happened. So they didn't say it went all the way to a conviction, but they knew that this wasn't going to be a fair trial for him.
Yeah. No, and I respect that. At least back then, even in the 1800s, they were going by our Constitution. And
I think had he not been a white guy, they probably would have just let it go. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
wealthy.
Let's be honest. At that
Let's
time
be
frame,
honest. I
yep.
think that had he been a black man that this had happened to, they wouldn't have cared. I mean, I'm just going to say that. Because he was white and he was wealthy, and that had a lot to do. It's the South, and he was a plantation
And it
owner
was
now.
in the 1800s.
Right.
I mean,
right. Okay. So the trial stuff is pretty interesting, I thought, anyway. So during the trial, there was a man named Bone Davis. I love that. Bone Davis. He's a farmer from Monroe County, and he made a statement about a conversation he had with Tom. And Bone stated, he said, Tom told me, and this is quotes, Father is independent and I am dependent. But by fire, I can make him dependent as I am. Then he clenched his fists. This is what Bone is saying. And then he continued relaying more of this conversation. Bone does. He said, Tom said, most boys can drink and spend a little. I can't. Father won't let me stay at home unless I work. He calls it loafing. I'll see the last one in hell before I'll stand it. So this temper is been well documented.
Yeah.
Okay. A witness. So this is this the James Anderson? I think no, this is James Anderson. This is a different guy. Okay. A witness named James said the morning after the murders, he saw Tom sitting by a tree. Remember, I told you he went out and sat by a tree, and everybody said, what the hell? I'd be going crazy. Like, you know, and Tom explained to him that a man named Anderson came to the house and murdered his family. James Anderson, however, lived on the plantation and had worked there for 2 years. He rented the house. He rented one of the 5 vacant houses. He was not a slave. He was a worker. And at least that's what the newspaper said, just telling y'all. In the early morning of August 6th, he said he heard shouting and went outside to find Tom yelling for him to get a horse and ride for help. So he was one of the young men that the newspaper called him boys, but he was a young man who rode over to get help. Okay. And he said Tom was saying someone broke into the house and killed his whole family. And Mr. Anderson's house was only about 150 yards away from the Wolfork house. He stated he heard nothing during the night except for the dog barking. So the dog would bark at a stranger for sure. But Tom is not known to be nice and kind to animals. So who knows how the dog was with him.
And we both know, I mean, you have animals, I have animals. Dogs are an amazing sense of people.
Mm-hmm.
So if Tom was doing anything that the dog was not okay with, he's going to let that be known.
Yes. Mr. Anderson also stated that on the Friday before the attack, he was trying to find the axe to chop wood for the family. It was not in the wood pile where it was normally kept. He said the last time he saw the axe, Tom was using it to chop firewood for the cook stove on Wednesday or Thursday before the murders. Okay, so there's a little bit of information. After he rode and got Mr. Smith, so after he rode to Mr. Smith's house, he returned and looked through the house. He said Tom's statement to him, this is still Mr. Anderson, that there were 2 people present and they did the killing was false. He never saw anyone present other than Tom and then later Mr. Smith. He observed Tom in his stocking feet and he had blood on his clothes. So that's what he says during the trial. Okay, so that was Mr. Anderson. Apparently, Mr. Smith said when he arrived at the farm, Tom explained that someone had broken into their house and killed his family. He stated repeatedly to the crowd that started arriving that he woke up to hear a struggle in the house, that he jumped from the window to save himself. Great guy. And as Mr. Smith spoke with Tom, Tom indicated he heard a noise in the house, rushed back inside. That's when he went inside, leaving Mr. Smith outside, who was reeling from what he'd been told. Mr. Smith stayed outside waiting for others to arrive when Tom went back inside the house for the second time. So they couldn't figure out why he kept going back into the crime scene. Like, what's he doing? But nobody wanted to go in there because they didn't want to see what had happened because they were freaked out. Okay. The next witness was an Irishman named Mr. Davis. He knew the Wolfork family really well. Tom told him, "My father has made a will, but he left his property to his last wife. I once had money, but I haven't any now. I will have the property in Macon or I will kill everything on the place."
I mean, here, where's your sign? It's right there.
I know. 2 years before the murders, and Mr. John Owens had been hired to paint the house. During the work, he recounted a statement that Tom had made. He had said, Tom came out into the yard and got to talking. He says, "All this property here belongs to me and my 2 oldest sisters, and I'm going to have it too." So this guy, like, he just can't stop running his mouth.
He, did not care. Who knew that he was very angry about everything that was not going his way, pretty much.
The stepmom, the step siblings, he hated them
Well,
all.
and they're like, and the sad part, they're half siblings. They're not even
Oh, that's true. They're halves. They're not steps. I
Yeah.
said that. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. They're halves. I mean, they're his family. But
Yeah.
he was set to inherit everything, and then here come all these kids, probably especially the boys.
And especially where with the new wife, there was more boys, it sounds like, than girls.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad. And from what everybody said, the girls were just so lovely. Like they were just lovely girls. They were very just like
those Southern Belle,
delicate,
polite.
Southern Belle,
Yeah.
just lovely little girls. Oh God, it just breaks my heart. So another witness was a Mr. V.C. Wilson. He was a neighboring farmer, and he said he was painting a nearby bridge when Tom came by one day and struck up a conversation with him. Mr. Wilson was talking about how much he liked Miss Pearl. That was one of the sisters that he killed. And Tom said, "Yes, any of us can be nice if we're living on other people's property. They're flying around now on my dead mother's property, and before I will stand it, I will wade knee deep in blood and see them all dead." Mr. Wilson said he replied, "Tom, if you've got that against your family, go away and leave them." To which Tom replied, "When I leave, I will leave with revenge." So that's how he felt. I mean, there's no mistaking this, okay?
No, I mean, it's obviously very well known. He did not like his dad's new family.
This retrial took nearly the whole month of June. It was a
40.
long trial, a lot of witnesses, and it resulted in a jury verdict of guilty and a sentence of death. Okay. On October 29th, Wolfork was to be hanged. At 10 a.m., he was given one last shave, and preachers came in to pray for his soul. At 10:45, a coffin was taken to the gallows, and the crowds of people started gathering. This was written in the newspaper. Okay, I can quote this because there's no more copyright on this. "It is a ghastly gallows on which Tom Wolfork pays the penalty of his bloody murders with his own wretched life. All gallows are ghastly, but this one seems more so than any others I've ever seen. It stands upon quote, the field of death, a little circular plat on a level valley, a place shunned by superstitious people after dark. For here it is all murder sentenced to die in public are executed. Close to the base on the right are waters of the creek, go singing on to mingle with the dark blue water of Big Indian Creek, which winds easily in and out among the marsh grasses that line its banks. On the left, a steep hill rises abruptly from the plain, and deep and yawning ditch with glaring banks of red splitting it in two. Tom's dying statement was, I, Thomas G. Wolfert, realizing the existence of an infinite and wise and holy God, so as to meet him, knowing all I've ever done, and fully understanding that I must stand before the judgment seat of God, and that today in a few hours I shall be called into his presence, do solemnly declare my innocence, and I leave as my last declaration that I did not take the life of my father or any other member of his family, or have any knowledge of the persons or persons who did the murderous deed. At 1:20 in the afternoon, he began praying aloud. A black cap was placed upon his head. He was placed facing east, and at 1:25, the trigger was released on the trap door. It took him 15 minutes to choke to death at the end of a rope.
Wow. 15 minutes.
Yeah, it didn't break his neck.
That's some karma.
Yeah.
Like, that's some, like, that just
I
gave me
love
chills because I was like, 15 minutes?
the whole setting seems so beautiful with the creek and the marsh grasses and the
Yeah.
hill and the red. If anybody's ever been to Georgia, it's like living in the Sierra Nevadas. It's red clay. The soil out there
Hmm.
is a red clay. So the soil is a really striking red. And they talk about the red. Yeah, the yawning ditch with glaring banks of red splitting it in two. It's that red Georgia clay.
So here you have
And
like this whole beautiful setup.
this beautiful scene with this
Right.
creek and everything, and then bam, this guy hits the end of the rope.
And hangs there for 15 minutes.
Uh-huh. I feel
Ugh.
so terrible. I mean, and then when he said, I did not take the life of my father or any member of his family. He didn't even acknowledge that they were his
No,
family at
no. And
all.
those were your half siblings, whether you
Yeah.
like it or not. They are biologically your half siblings. And so for you
Yeah.
to, even on that last moment, I'm innocent and I didn't take my father or his family's life,
Isn't
dude,
it?
like your words make you look guilty.
Yes. So there you go. That is the Wolfork family murders. The whole family taken out by an absolutely deranged, angry man child who decided. I mean, he was just so angry. He's so angry.
Yes. And I honestly wonder if maybe, I mean, and we could do the what ifs all day long, but if the dad wouldn't have sent him to the aunt, how different it might have been.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
But then
I
again,
just
I truly believe some people are just born.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
do too.
truly do.
There's too many I know that there's a lot of discussion in true crime cases of product to your environment, right? Or a product of like genetics. Like, is it um, wiring?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think environment plays a huge role in this kind of stuff
Hmm.
for sure. But that doesn't mean that everybody who comes from a broken family or everybody that has their parent die, their mother die at a young age, right after birth, is going to turn out to be that way.
No.
So that's where it kind of falls apart. I think in many cases, environment definitely.
Oh,
Look
I
at
agree.
the young kids that are in gangs and inner cities and whatnot. They see it, they live it, they become it, they die it.
Yeah.
The next generation sees it, lives it, becomes it, dies with it. I mean, it's just this perpetuating cycle of abuse and death. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, but that doesn't mean that you can't get out of it if you truly want to
No.
get away from it. And you don't have to be that guy.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, I'm proof of from anyone that it's all on you. You can break the cycles of the things that
mhm,
go on and change your
mhm.
life
Yeah,
and do better. I think for him, he didn't like, well, obviously it's very well known. He did not like the fact that dad remarried
mhm,
and had other kids because it took the
mhm.
spotlight away from him. He was the boy, he was the man. And yet it's kind of telling when you're married and your wife after 3 weeks is like, peace, I'm good, he's mean. I mean, and if we look back at that 1800 time frame in 1880, what was it, 88 that this happened, or 87, you didn't talk about like being mean or things like that. That's
No,
just not how that was back then. You didn't get divorced. So for her to leave,
that's a big deal.
yeah, because you didn't leave, you didn't get divorced. That was
Right,
very frowned upon, especially if it was a very prominent family.
right. Yeah. So, yeah, that young woman who married him went, oh my God, you
Yeah,
know,
3 weeks.
3 weeks for her to
I'm
say what
like,
she said. And yeah, it was horrible what she said. Let me go back up and I can reread that. Let me find it because that was quite a statement. Georgia Bird, a young woman who married Wolfer, left him within 3 weeks and later divorced him, said, he's not crazy. It's simple meanness. He's the meanest man I ever saw, and there's nothing too mean for him to do. Um, yeah.
that's so telling on a person.
Oh, gosh. And I wonder how she even came to marry him to begin with. That's what I
I
like.
know. That's so funny. I was just thinking that, like, okay, was this like an arranged?
That's what the family said, hey, these two will be good together. Let's get them married off. And yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, I still think in some ways that happens with prominent families that are very, very well off, and
Mm-hmm.
half the time the kids are like set up to be married to keep wealth
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. But I mean, not within 3 weeks. It didn't even say like within that first 3 weeks, she was like, I'm good. He is
You know,
mean.
she went back home to daddy's house and told him everything that was going on. And he's like,
Hmm.
you're never going back there.
Probably.
Because, it wasn't genteel, the genteel Southern women, they were not exposed to this kind of life.
No.
So, yeah,
I mean,
they
and we look at the guy, I guess, that lived right there, Mr. Anderson. You said it was how many yards? 18.
150 yards, 300 feet ish.
Yeah.
He would have heard. You would think he would have
Yes.
heard. That was another question. How did he manage to kill them all with an axe and they're not running all over the house and getting away from him?
I mean,
They
because you
while
got
they were
18
sleeping
months to 20
hmm,
years old. There was 20-year-old to 18 months of the kids.
of the
And then you
kids,
got,
and then the lady, the aunt was like 82 years old, and
and
then
then
his
dad
father
was,
and his stepmother were in their 50s. They
and well,
weren't old.
stepmom was 41, right?
Oh, 41 and 50 something with the dad. So how did
Yeah.
that's what kind of blew my mind. I'm like, did he get his hands on chloroform or something? Because how would you take them all out unless you hit him with such force on the first blow that they couldn't scream and they were dead instantly, and then you just went from room to room to room.
But even with the mom and dad, if you think about it, they're probably in the same room.
I don't think they were, because when they
Okay.
described the blood pattern on the heels of the feet, they said it was Colonel Wolford's room. So they may have slept in separate bedrooms, which was not uncommon back in those
No.
days. The women
And it
had their
was
own
a,
bedroom, and they usually had some like somebody that would help them get dressed because they had all the layers on and all that kind of stuff. So the women a lot of times slept in a different room.
they just had their meeting point
Uh huh.
at night when they
Yeah.
wanted.
And then they'd retire to their, which is nothing wrong with that, especially if he
No.
snored. Like, dude,
Yeah.
you snore over there. I'm going to go get a good night's sleep over.
I know so many people now that sleep in separate rooms, and a lot of it
Yes.
is because of the snoring.
The
But I'm
snoring.
still like, how did you manage to kill 9 people and
So
not
it goes back
one
to maybe the
noise?
one guy who said that he was involved, but the timing didn't work out because he had been in jail somewhere else.
Yeah.
So did he have an accomplice? Or did he have his hands on something that they never figured out because they did not have a test for it? Chloroform, because chloroform was used on the farms. Sometimes you would actually, when I worked for a vet, little Shar-Pei dogs that have all the wrinkles.
Mhm.
When they're 2 days old, the pups, you have to actually stitch their eyes open or they'll seal shut.
Oh,
They don't
wow.
have enough strength with all the wrinkles. So the vet, I would actually take a little bit of chloroform and the puppies would breathe it and it instantly just go out and we could get a stitch in real fast before they cut, came, because you couldn't give them drugs to put them under. They're too small.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
chloroform would be just enough, and then you'd put the oxygen mask on them, and they come right to, and then we could have one little stitch up here on their eyes. And so you do use that in farm applications sometimes, and it was not an uncommon thing to have on a big farm or plantation for different aspects of farming. If you had to euthanize an animal, you could use that, and you wouldn't have to necessarily shoot him. So the only thing that I'm thinking is you put
He
it
would
on
have had
somebody
to have.
sleeping and within one breath they're out.
Yeah. So I agree with your chloroform, or the way he did it. It was one done.
One blow, but still that's loud.
But yeah.
But
I
it's a
mean,
big house. I'm imagining it's a big plantation house. It's a big one. So the rooms aren't
right next to each other. No, I mean, if they were that well off to where they owned that big of a plantation and stuff, no. I mean, we both got to figure that house was probably huge. Honestly, in my mind, I picture like the big
gone with the
white,
wind.
like, yeah, the
Yeah,
southern big white houses with the
exactly.
porch out front that's got all the windows. Yeah, that's kind of where my mind goes with that. But I truly wondered, how did not even another sibling wake up, especially the oldest being 20?
I think at this point too, his oldest sisters probably didn't live in the house because they didn't play into the story at all.
No, they're probably married.
They weren't at the trial. That's what I was thinking, is that they probably were married and out of the house. So they
Mhm.
weren't drug into this at all. And thank God. I mean, thank God they
Yeah.
were, it didn't sound like he had any animosity towards them as well. So
No, because they were his biological siblings. Like his full-blown
full
biological
blood.
siblings.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like
Full mother.
you corrected me because I kept thinking step and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a step mom, but they are his half siblings. Yeah, you're right. So anyway,
And I
I
guess I
love
could
these old
understand,
cases. Hmm?
like, if it was an evil stepmom, that
I know, but
maybe like throughout the childhood of like getting married and whatnot was like, oh, you're nothing. My kids are gonna take it all. But it
who knows
doesn't.
what was going on behind closed doors?
Yeah.
Maybe she was. There wasn't. I never found anything, but again, this is 1888. And so all I could go by were the old newspaper articles. I never saw anything that said anything other than kind words about the family. Like they were
Yeah.
hardworking, wonderful people. They just
I mean,
happened to
and
be very
especially
wealthy.
at that time frame, like, I don't know, everyone was very honest. Your word meant everything back then.
Mhm.
And so in my mind, if everybody was saying how nice and they were, to where you weren't a slave, you weren't owned, you worked on the fields, that's very telling, to where I don't think it's probably that situation. I think he was born wired differently, and in his
So
mind they were a threat to his inheritance.
I'm trying to think back. After the Civil War, was it the end of the Civil War? Were all the slaves emancipated right then and there?
I think
After
so.
the North won? So that's that could be why slavery was never brought up in any of these articles, because this was 1888. So the Civil War was what, 1860-ish?
Oh man, you're like
Oh,
making
I
me
know.
think of. I'm not
Let
here.
me,
Let's look. When was the
yeah, because
Civil War?
this young man, Anderson, said he worked for them. It was 1861 to 1865. So yeah,
Yeah,
so that's why this young man
that.
Anderson said I worked for them. He lived in that house and he worked for them. So that's why when I was reading this, going, okay, what? Okay, it was 20
But
years.
even that's very telling because if we're thinking the South, Georgia, even now there's still issues with all that. I
Hmm.
mean, of different race and all that. So that close proximity to be living there, working, and say what amazing people this farmer was or this owner was. I can't foresee it being that they were just the vindictive behind the closed doors.
No, I don't think so either. You have a really good
Mm-mm.
point. I think that if these people were that well respected in the community, they treated everybody well.
Yeah. And I mean, and it sounds like they did a lot for the community,
Hmm.
for the whole town to be in an uproar of like, you need to hang him, you need to hang him now. Like, that's very telling
Yeah.
in my eyes.
I think too, when you think about a murder like that, going after the innocent children,
Yeah.
that's
I
just
mean,
like,
that 18-month old, like,
yeah.
I really
And
think there has to be some screws loose.
the newspapers back then, guys, if you guys haven't done any research like in these old newspaper articles, they're graphic. They are
It's so
so
crazy.
graphic. They will say like so and so fell out of the carriage and their brains were splattered all over the gravel road. It was like, what? You're reading that
Yeah.
going, oh my God, they
They're not
tempered
going to say that
nothing.
now.
They didn't say that now. And they temper nothing in these old newspaper. You're like, holy moly, what did I just read? You go back and read this stuff over and over, and you're like, now like you can't say that. You're like, well, they fell out of the
No.
carriage and they died. But no, they'll say anything. Like they just lay it out there.
They're like, well, this
So
is what happened because,
that's what happened. We've gone so
once
soft.
again, our word is everything back then. So we're just going to lay it out. Like, and it's crazy as we were talking about this. All I keep thinking is Lizzie Borden had an axe. She gave her father 50 whacks
Yes.
or 40 whacks.
Yes.
I can't remember
40
exactly
whacks,
how it
50
was.
whacks. I don't know if she whacked him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in my mind, I'm so like, how did
Is that
you?
where you think the term whacking them in came from? For like the wise guys and the mafia? Go out and whack them?
Hmm.
Was the
I
Lizzie
do.
Borden thing? Oh, that's pretty
I
interesting.
truly wonder if it does because I mean, the Lizzie Borden story is pretty
Oh,
old.
yeah, it's old and it graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, her screws were loose too.
Hmm.
But in my mind, I'll be honest, Colleen, I don't understand how people can murder their own parents. I mean, I guess I could understand if like vile, like very,
Yes, I
very
was going to say if they were
vile
just evil,
parents.
terrible, horrible people,
Yes,
yeah, yes.
hands down can understand that. But not these parents
Now,
that are sweet and just, I mean, how many have we heard of just since the 90s of these teens going and killing their parents
yep,
because, oh, they don't want you dating the boy, which, hey, guess what? They're
yep,
probably like in every aspect. And you guys, I'm telling you, if you young generation, if your parents are saying, hey, no, there's a reason for that. I
right.
promise you that. I mean, don't fight against it, but it's disturbing to me how these so many young people nowadays just murder their parents
Yep,
because they didn't get their way.
yep.
Not justifiable, but understandable when you have vile parents.
Yeah, I never think it's the only time I self-defense.
Yes.
Self-defense. That's when like if you have to defend yourself from life or limb, yeah.
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 Hands
Yeah.
down.
Okay. Or your child or your brother or sister, somebody standing next to you, self-defense, but walk away.
Yeah. I
Go
mean,
somewhere else. Yeah.
everything's a moment in time
Yeah. Don't do something you're gonna
because it
yeah,
takes
you're gonna spend
one.
75 to life. regretting in
Yeah,
a
for
place
one
that you have.
decision that you made.
Yeah,
It-
yeah, yeah.
that's I don't understand that with some people. I truly don't. And I mean, and with this guy, I just think there were screws loose, and he felt threatened, and he didn't like it. He wanted everything for himself. But could you imagine how bad that plantation would have went if this wouldn't have happened and he did inherit it?
Oh, I can't even imagine what kind of guy he would have been.
Yeah.
Mm. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us. This was
Yes.
I love these historic crimes. So
They're
there's
interesting to me.
they're interesting. I feel bad for this whole family and the future they could
Yes.
have had, and the children and grandchildren and the lineages they could have had since then. And yeah, that's a terrible, and it sounds like it was a big loss for the community. And yeah, so, but anyway, to the Woolfolk families, I hope they're resting in peace. And
Yes.
um, we're going to come at you next week with another one. It could be new, could be old. I don't know. We'll see what we come up with.
It'll be good.
It'll be a fun one. Yeah. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Thanks, guys. Have a good
Be
night.
sure to subscribe and share the show. We'd appreciate it.
Very much.